We measure life by what is visible, the seasonal bloom of career and social success, but the machinery of survival operates entirely beneath the soil. The Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung argued that our visible identity is a shallow byproduct of a much larger invisible root system, a rhizome of unconscious forces that anchor our existence. When we focus exclusively on the surface, our identity becomes structurally unstable. Without the weight of this deeper root system to hold us, we become vulnerable to every shift in the external world. Resolving psychological pain requires us to abandon the surface illusion and descend into the dark architecture of the soul. Jung believed we carry a split personality. He defined personality number 1 as our adapted ego, the mask we build to manage daily survival and meet societal expectations. Hidden within is personality number 2, an eternal, mythic self that operates outside of linear time and human rules. Jung's childhood was marked by a violent clash between these two selves. He was haunted by a vision of a dark mass falling from a blinding sky to obliterate the roof of the Basel Cathedral. This vision convinced Jung that the unconscious is an autonomous power. It operates with a terrifying force that refuses to be sanitized by human morality or religious dogma. These eruptions from the deep psyche carry enough power to shatter any polite, fragile structure we build to contain them. To bridge the gap between his mystical visions and the physical world, Jung entered early 20th century psychiatry. He wanted to anchor his internal experiences in the rigorous world of empirical science. In the clinic, he viewed psychotic delusions as a coded language, the soul's desperate attempt to narrate an unintegrated myth. Jung introduced the wounded healer model to the clinic. He argued that a psychiatrist can only reach a patient by abandoning their objective distance and allowing their own psyche to be affected by the encounter. Real psychological growth demands this vulnerable, dialectical collision between two human souls. This search for depth led Jung to Sigmund Freud. While Freud had successfully mapped the mind's basement, he adamantly refused to look at the darker, mystical roots buried even deeper. Freud used his theory of sexuality as a dogmatic fortress, a baluarte designed to hold back what he feared was a black mud of occultism. Their fracture became final when Freud refused to analyze his own dreams in Jung's presence, fearing that such vulnerability would destroy his professional authority. Jung's unconscious responded with a dream that cast Freud as a rigid customs official, while Jung saw himself as a solitary crusader embarking on a mystical quest. By choosing the safety of his intellectual mask over the risks of self-discovery, Freud compromised his capacity for true discovery. Isolated after the break with Freud, Jung made a radical choice. He surrendered his safe, clinical intellect and began a voluntary descent into his own madness. This nekia, or descent to the underworld, allowed raw, unmediated visions from the deepest layers of the psyche to flood his conscious mind. He began dialoguing with internal entities like Elias and Salome, discovering that the unconscious is home to autonomous intelligences that existed long before the ego. Jung treated these dialogues not as a psychotic break, but as a necessary negotiation to integrate repressed shadows into his waking life. The human psyche operates as a populated ecosystem containing autonomous forces that the ego must actively and courageously negotiate. Order eventually emerged from this chaos through the use of geometry. Jung found that drawing circular patterns helped center and stabilize his fractured mind. He called these patterns mandalas, the architectural blueprint for the self, where conscious and unconscious forces balance within a single vessel. Jung called this lifelong development individuation. It is the process of forging a complete, indivisible self out of the fragmented pieces of our personality. Psychological health requires this architectural union of light and shadow, rather than the simple eradication of our darker impulses. Jung's work suggests that our modern anxiety stems from a refusal to acknowledge anything below the surface. We are trying to live as flowers with no connection to our roots. The challenge of a modern life is to build a bridge between our daily obligations and the eternal subterranean myth that is trying to live through us. Jung warned that whatever internal shadow we refuse to face will eventually manifest in the world around us, becoming the destiny we can no longer escape.